Is your preference to do compilations or to use an entire track of music of one artist?
I wouldn't say I have a preference. I mean, that's the wonder of the internet, the compilation, that you have such a huge spectrum to choose from. So, I mean, prior to the internet, to put a compilation together, I'd be sitting on the floor for days with a stack of 50 or 100 CDs. And I'd be familiar with them, but I'd be searching through and putting 5 CDs at a time into a carousel and listening. And the way that the process of compiling for a compilation is so enhanced, so simplified now, by having everything on an MP3 player and putting it into a playlist. Compilations do allow for a wonderful and unique juxtaposition of music. Mm-hmm. And I'll go through it briefly. Let's say I start off with 30 tracks for a compilation that's going to have 10 tracks on there. The key to the process is I'll start with 30 and start whittling down. But the key to it is to get the one track that really defines what it is that I'm looking for. So let's say it's tranquility. So I get this one track that I absolutely love, and that probably eliminates 15 of the 30 automatically, and then start to build. That then requires pulling other tracks in, and so that process continues. And quite often I'll have 8 or so tracks on there and then realize, it's only these 2 that actually do it. So then you start again and keep refining it that way. When the whole selection is there, say I've got the 10 or 12 tracks that I want, then it needs to incubate. And this is something that may sound a little crazy, but I firmly believe the music orders itself, configures itself. When a compilation really has the magic, as one track finishes, and this is part of the art and part of the skill that is acquired, that as one track finishes, the intuition will kick in, and something that can take the listener in a different direction, subtle as it may be. That's the real beauty of a compilation. But that process is also part of it as well with a one artist album. And this becomes quite often an arm wrestling process, that the musician sends in the 12 tracks. Now we're working together with the tracks as it develops, but I'll have the 12 tracks, and the musician will quite often want this sequence. That's my best track. That track all my friends and my girlfriend loves that track. I said, yeah, it's a great track, but if you kick off with that track, your album's going to be flat by the time. There's nothing else that has got that exaltation, that excitement, that vibration. So it's a somewhat seductive process. The first track is definitely needs to set the mood, and the second track to complement that. The third track normally builds the energy, and then you bring it down a little bit. So it's a practice and intuitive process, and ultimately, as said, that the music has its own voice.
Oh, what an art! It's really an art, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, I reflect back on some of the albums that I created a long time ago, and I would sequence them differently now. Oh. They would have a different impact. And part of what we do, we create custom CDs for hotels and spas to use through the treatments. And I mean, sometimes if it might be an Asian hotel, well, I want to come over there. I want to experience what the treatments are to really get a sense of what it is you're wanting to achieve. And some of the treatments are very exotic these days. It's not just lie on the table.
So do they give you the treatments?
My particular frequency, just being somewhat like a calm lake. That's me at my best. That's how I can select the music. That's where our offices are 10 feet away from the water. We live not far from here, right on the water. So that influence is around me, and that's all part of the familiarizing.
I'm so moved by what you're talking about as far as the compilations and the process that you go through, not only in the compilations, but in listening to the music, and you and Karen meditating together and giving a foot massage, and the process that you go through. And I look forward to re-listening to, for instance, Namaste, which is one of your more recent compilations, and a quite successful one. With the understanding that you're giving me, and it reminds me of when I learn about wine. And after having learned about wine and the things to notice, and the taste and the smell, how I have a deeper appreciation for that, or for anything that I have more insight into. So I really appreciate your sharing that, and the process that you go through, and the depth of intention within that.
It's a privilege to become intimate with a passion. I can reflect back on my young days with playing golf, and that's very symbolic of this process, because when you play golf, you hit the ball, you walk. Some people say you hit the ball, go find it hitting again. But as you're walking, so much information is being absorbed. You're taking into consideration the strength of the wind, and not just what you can feel, but the shot you're about to play may be a couple of 100 yards, and you can see that where you are is sheltered by trees, so you don't feel the wind. But if you look at the treetops 200 yards away, you can see that if the ball gets above that level, it will be impacted. You feel the movement of the land, the texture of the grass. There's a great amount of information that's being taken in, and then the actual golf swing takes but a few seconds. The golf swing takes 1.25 seconds, but the actual process of playing the shot, of visualizing, of having the sense of what it is you want to accomplish, is very brief and very concentrated. And I think that describes me as going back to the peacemaker, that my type doesn't have a great is not a drone. We tend to focus in very sharply and very intensely, with all the antenna, with all the information, and I think that's something that I've learned, and I've learned to switch off as well. It's really important at the highest level of golf. Play the shot, switch off. If the shot was not quite the way you wanted it, do not take that with you as you're walking along. You get cleared out and refocus. So I think it would be very good practice for anyone to listen, for example, to Namaste, listen to one track, and then pause for a moment and just enjoy the silence, enjoy the reflection of the track that you've just listened to, and then try and get a sense of, well, what would I put after this? So I just listened to a track that had chanting on it, for example. Now, what would I want to go with that? It's not necessarily another chanting track. It could be something off at quite a tangent. So that can be very informative for anyone to do. Have a compilation album, but pause between the tracks and then say, oh, okay, now I'll listen. Well, that's not what I would have done.
Yes.
So it adds interest to the process. And rather like you're describing wine. I mean, once you begin to, I'm not a connoisseur, but I see other people and they look at it and they know from the texture and from the color and from the aroma, and it's not necessarily just the taste.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So there is a saying that life is a dance.
Mm-hmm.
What is the music that you would have danced to in your life and that you will continue to dance to?
The music that is a combination of inspiring, uplifting, and somewhat sacred. It's not one piece of music or one musician, but there would be. I've said to a lot of people that I work with, and they're our staff here, and they, well, what are you listening for in the music? When I first listen, if it doesn't make me laugh or cry, then it's out. It doesn't have much of a chance. So it has to stimulate, it has to trigger some emotion in there. I've got to feel, wow, this is really great, or this is really beautiful. This is very poignant. This is very uplifting. I just can't keep still there, and it doesn't have to be rock music to have that impact on you.
It would be interesting for you to put a compilation CD that was a story of your life.
Mm-hmm. Maybe they all are.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.